this is live. And this is Maureen at the African Authors Book Launch. We are good to go. We're ready to start. We're all set up and now waiting for guests to come in. So I will take you through already what we have. So this is Dr. Maureen at the African Authors Book Launch. I want to thank you for tuning in, and now we're going to take you through what we have. Halanya. So these are some of the titles that we have up here in the market. The Fall of the Kingdom. Fall of the Jungle Kingdom by Hilary Namunyu. And we have one of my favorite, Dear Daughter, Love Notes to a Dear Daughter by Jalia. Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Oh, you're the best. I hope you bring some good luck.
I just thought it was downstairs, so we were sitting down there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, then my gentleman found you. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, downstairs is another bit later.
Yeah.
So then we thought up here is more private because then if you play some music and stuff.
Yeah.
So up here is more private, and out there is also quite huge. So this is nice and cozy. And so the book market will be set up here. And then at 3 o'clock, when the authors start to speak, then we shall go in the room. Yeah. So have fun browsing through. So I'm going to ask you to be also to write on, because the rest of them also are.
I tried messaging Yuksa, but I didn't get any answers, so.
Maybe she's coming later.
Yeah, I saw that she went to Amsterdam yesterday for like a wine
Okay.
festival, so.
Oh, okay, could be.
Yep, probably.
Well, going to. Yes.
Did you see Ronja's message about going for drinks before March? Yeah?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, great.
Hello, this is Maureen speaking.
Yeah.
And I managed to get Tensai along too.
Ah, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
as well,
she's not into EDM in house.
That's success then.
Was they can join for the drinks?
Yeah. I was planning on doing that, but
Okay.
not for the club.
No.
Where is it? Yes. Did you send it on? These ones, I mean. All of them.
Is it okay to
These
pick
are
up
all
the
about you, it's some of them. So this is a cake. And that one can go with the magazine. This one is I'm using my Wi-Fi phone, but it will run out. So it's
There's only 2 lines. Yeah, but I really talked to people and my friends are really good at wait, but they can't talk you down because this is what I mean. It's they're very good. I was just
they're
going to
just a
talk
catalog. It's just a catalog. So you can pick a copy.
wait, so like either way, they're gonna end up finding out that you reported. Maybe. I can tell them. They just keep on recording things. That is all. Does it done? Is it done there now?
So these are cards. These are African greeting cards and African notebooks. You can go and if you finished here.
You know what, Molly? I forgot to put the prices, but
Yeah, but put them on a paper because we want to be there all the time.
all.
Oh yeah, African greeting cards. So here. Would you like coffee or tea?
I'm okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Oh, maybe where they sit by the chairs. I think by the chairs. When you get here, Maria can tell you about it. This needs to be in your pocket because the Wi-Fi is coming from here. Coco Girl. This is one of my favorite kids' African magazines, but it is from the UK. So it's this was actually the very first edition. Coco Girl.
No, it's good. Yes, so I wrote a children's book. I'm from Tanzania. And so I wrote a children's book about pretty much all So fabric. This is one of the lighter kinds. It always has and coastal yeah, and so yeah, and these are the two you can browse through and see, and it just has multiple purposes, and for me it's always very important. I grew up going to international schools. I teach at international schools. Whenever we have book events, it's always everybody else is sharing their culture, and I'm just like, oh yeah. There are a few books out there, but not so many, or at least not those that talk about a cultural identity. And this is like one of those things. Why not?
Where is it like it's got multiple purposes?
Go ahead and read. It's a children's book. It's very, and this is written from a child's point of view and not from an adult's point of view. But it's open to so many possibilities. So you go ahead and look through it, and then also think, okay, for you, what would it mean? Or is there something similar in your own culture? Or there's something that is so multi-purpose to use and is passed from generation to generation.
Whatever. Hi, I'm Maria. I love this. And this is my book. I have the children's book out now, and it's called Mama's Magical Kanga, and it's also in Kiswahili, Kanga ya Mama. And yeah, it's available for sale, and karibuni to the event.
And so all the different kinds of really come the same. Like here I have a couple of samples, and I have it in, of course it's in Kiswahili, but I have it translated what English wording. Yes. Kanga ya. The kanga of my, yes. So what are you guys interning at? Ah, okay. Yeah. Cool. And are you liking it so far? Is it what you thought it would be? In terms of, you know, both.
Actually,
Oh.
a lot of cool stuff to do. Some boring stuff as well, but overall it's cool.
Always. But that's nice. Well, good luck. Welcome to the world of internationalization. Yeah.
I should also take that. I find that interesting. Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
not important for this salad. You know, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, what's restorative justice? That's our God. I hope you are my to say he will bring it, or he will bring the one of Chile, okay, to investigate the Kinderbasler. And how to give trust again to the politics. It's not Netherlands system, it's not going to work. That's why I think it's not really. Yeah, no, it's not going to stop because it's just all the, I can say, the white in South Africa rejected it, even till today. So, and it's completely opposite the law of, what we call it again, AVF, the law of protection of personal information. You can't open the public and tell every garden thing you do in your life. Every, no? It's not our system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope you find I wrote the two books in Dutch, and I decided from now onwards I will only write English.
Yeah.
The market is small, and most information is not Dutch context. It's not Dutch context. And, they find it nice, but I know it's something that will not work easily.
Yeah. So you have some Swahili now?
My next book is
Anything, I'll do anything.
It's a complete review.
This is like what I was talking about when the sun and time, how time is different.
Oh yeah,
You're
how-
on the equator,
that's great.
like,
Yeah, that's what you think song?
exactly.
Amazing.
It makes sense though.
It makes lots of sense.
It makes sense.
Ik heb het week gekocht.
Nee, nee, maar we kunnen het gewoon kopen. Dat is ook geen punt hoor. sleeves. No more sleeves.
Girl, that be speaking to my impatience. Don't worry, you got it.
You know, that's the one I was looking for. Oh. Because I'm like, I need that in my life. Like, I need to pass that every day. Every day.
Are there two?
Want to interview me? Okay, let me first put this away.
Take your time.
I know how what it took me. Nobody has written it. So it's just very new and special.
What was your process of writing it?
My process.
Of writing it?
I wrote the whole story.
I love your bravery. I applaud it.
Hello.
Yes, so I don't know if you're small, whatever.
That's on my head. That is a true story.
Oh, really?
What didn't happen is it didn't I'm involved in a lot of so but another thing is few things I think
Do you have a book here?
Yes, I have mine here.
so when I wrote it, evidence
Let me take a look. Yes. You want to interview me? Okay, at the top. Yes.
You go.
Yeah. Now we are excited to hold this event of African authors, and we have a beautiful catalog. So in the catalog, first of all, the organizers are African Promotion Center and International African School, and we have made a beautiful catalog where we have all the authors who have chosen to participate in the event. So you can find their links in the catalog, and it's free. And as an author, I'd like to present what I have authored. I have a Swahili book for beginners, and I have book 1, and I have Swahili book 2. And these books, I wrote them especially for the people who are learning Swahili as a second language. This book is not for people who already know Swahili, but for people who are trying to learn Swahili as a second language. And then we have a beautiful magazine published by African School. And in the magazine, we have written African stories, African culture. The magazine is called Sauti ya Africa. It means Voice of Africa, a perfect gift, especially for Mother's Day that is coming. Thank you.
Oh, she's
Hi, you too. Hi.
Thank you. So, do you have like a lineup of what you're going to choose?
I just have decades.
Look, it's our violin player. It's live. It's live.
Do you need like a stand or something?
No, I already have one.
Are you ready? Because we're gonna be here for half an hour. Or where do you put it? Here or there?
Obviously there. I think there in the corner.
Okay, so nobody wants to see a flow. Nobody wants to see the flow.
We're not traveling.
Then show people.
I don't want to show people.
No, you need to, because nobody wants to see the flow. Please, don't be excuse me. Nobody wants to see people. It's a public event, so people's faces can be shown.
Don't show my face. Show your face.
Just go in. Show them.
Iskandar. And yeah.
Just follow me. Do interview. Say who you, what you're gonna do.
Okay, my name is Maya and I'll be playing the violin.
I have to stay here.
Things you can take.
Okay.
Niemand is vrij. In Afrika hebben we etnische, hoe zeg je dat, etnische problemen, tribes, stammen, vechten tegen elkaar. Hetzelfde. Het is zo wat hij wil. En we moeten schamen. Dus dat replicaat hier, hoe dat werkt. Maar ook wat wij kunnen doen. Hoe je zelf ook ja, maar ook die automatische beeldvorming die wij serieus hebben, die ook belangrijk is voor ons leven. En dat is goed in de gaten. Als ik iemand zo origineel maar misschien ook uit Japan of uit Zuid-Korea. Maar ik heb het gelijk gestudeerd en dat ik met oud en gewoon als Chinees. En misschien ook 12 jaar ja, dus ik dat gelijk dus dat ik dat en denk ik, wat doe ik nou? Misschien ga ik in een gesprek. Zelf wel net was. Ja. Ja, dat is wat ik talk uitgegeven. En dit heb ik zelf uitgegeven. Ja. Ja. Ik weet dat dit verhaal niet wetenschappelijk is. Ik wil ook, er is zoveel wetenschappelijk over. En wat ik nu doe is, dingen die ik doe, is proberen in een verhaalvorm te maken, zodat jongeren toegang hebben om mee te spreken. Ja,
So I'm out of recycling, but they will be coming on the 3rd of May.
Yes, she take my plate.
So you're the second
This looks very aesthetic.
So one hardcover, one hardcover.
Do not say her name. You can do it. You can do it. I don't know what it
Why is she so
Let's play. Do it. I won't make
Did you already pick something?
What do you think of this thing? I mean, of this book's launch?
Very nice, very colorful. It's very diverse.
Get to it.
I didn't see that. Why is she
It's alive. Oh my god, I do not look at me.
Okay. Yeah, they're gonna be so shocked by your beautiful play.
Let her start. Don't make her shy. Don't focus on her.
I'm not.
Then you make her very shy. Focus on her when she's playing and she's not aware. That's how she works.
Yeah, she's always aware. Just play. Don't stare at her. Just turn around. You can do it.
Hi everyone. Hi again. So this is Molin and I'm welcoming you again and again to the book launch. And it's ongoing right now. The book market is going on and people are browsing through books and they're talking to the authors. So I thank you for your presence, for joining us online and from wherever you are. Enjoy browsing through, and we try to involve the whole community in these kinds of events. So we also have, you will see somebody playing the violin. I think you can hear, and that's one of the kids from the community, from the African community, showing her talent. And you will get to meet some of the authors. In a short while, at 3 o'clock, we shall go to the official start of the launch. And in the meantime, keep enjoying, keep browsing through the different titles and have fun.
That's part of it.
If they're buying these, I will be checking, and if there's any book they want to buy and you don't know the price, you just let me know. Because I want to make a list and everything. So send me. You can show her when she's not listening.
Those are finding you like meetings only 4 years old. But this Turkish is like very old, like 62 years old. So they are well established after there's a long time. So they understand and they speak Norway has a culture.
So now what I'm gonna do when I have this information, get the paper and write down the prices of the books that I
I wanted to go last week. Don't you like to celebrate No, I think it was just me. I just woke up early.
I actually don't.
Thank you. Have you seen a condom before? So you can feel and see. So this is one of the lighter kinds, and usually it has words. It has words. It has the words at the bottom. And this is kind of how it usually is. And of course, for women mostly, when you wear it or use it as clothing, it's easier to wrap around. Or as well. I really have to search for it as well to carry things I think a lot of other
Wij zijn van alles en iedereen naar voren.
Ja.
Daardoor, ja. Daardoor, het is dus, nou, ik ga nog even verder kijken.
Is goed.
Ja.
Ja, dank u.
Are you also with this? Can I ask a question about how to buy?
Oh yeah, I think somebody who's selling.
Okay. So well, if we get one of your books, how do we buy them? Through Molin's organization.
I don't know how she arranged it. Maybe through Molly, one can buy stuff from me, but I can ask her.
Yeah, just do that. Yeah.
And you, your name? Please. From which side?
Now you said I wanted to go to Nigeria. No, I didn't see your name. Yeah, you're Nigerian.
And because I can't organize myself.
I leave you for a long time, maybe. No, it's just Minister of Health fair yeah, no, it's my own business. What I do in the city, just people above 50 years who need counseling or having recurring dreams, mental problem, whatever, anything spiritual, they can go.
This can be anybody. Children, dogs, African.
Normally I'm friends with white people, I was working in drugs and alcohol in and those are
That's how things work.
yeah.
Start from like races.
Yeah. So I saw that the children what happened to this child because of the child? He brought me back I saw the situation. Have everything in both. Only good things you have.
when he's not busy, you can go to him.
What do I do when I recorded the same books like 5 times?
And we're soon going to go outside.
Yeah, my focus is, I'm an educator myself, and in culturally appropriate ways in our home language. And so I said, we're trying to build that
Because I get for some reason what I don't want it. I want somebody I can call and say, okay, it's
So, my name is Molly.
and by
My name is
interaction,
Molly.
the person
Dr.
how
Molly.
I
Yes, Dr. Molly. Nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
we go to this.
My name is Malu.
Malu, nice to
I'm
meet
from
you.
DRC.
My background
From
was
DRC. Oh, that's why you're Swahili.
No, I'm looking to learn Swahili. This is different.
She gives Swahili lessons.
what CBC and I was like,
Oh, no.
it sounds good.
Yeah.
But where do you go? Because she lives in near Emma. So,
And I'm meeting you.
she used to give the lessons.
I think that's it. Like,
Let's not have questions.
I have to see.
But then Corona.
in the Netherlands. But now I can speak Netherlands.
The same
I can speak. So that we get that stuff. So it's good to have that much.
It's good. Yeah. Because the book I'm writing now is it's about the culture of peace and light. Yeah, it's easy. Not the music.
Yeah, they have all the words that
We have Nigeria, we have everywhere. But the whole of this problem has one cause. That is the culture, Western culture, that have created the culture of lies. The only way to stop all those things is to move away from them. This God will be like those. Not Jewish, eh? The teaching of Jesus. Yeah. He was a Jew, but he didn't belong to that culture. He preached culture of another kingdom. So. Yeah, exactly. people deny racism. Look for hate racism.
Nee, kijk, ik weet niet wat ik interessant vind.
Thinking goes automatic and action is another issue. So when you separate thoughts, you have to be conscious of first what you're thinking, and then you're able to separate it. And then you have your peace, and you can also move forward with others, relate with others. That's the first point. Yeah, because they asked me to write Dutch dream, like Martin Luther King Jr. So I wrote that. I said this society is not yet what it's supposed to be. There is no peace and there is no justice. At least for some people I know. Those people I describe everything with evidence, they saw it because it's the work I did. People I work from Rotterdam, Ireland, Rotterdam, the nation, in a lot of contacts, even the discussion with King when he visited me and things like that, what he said. So evidence is there. So okay. Now, when they see everything on one line, it's very clear for them. That's the second group is there is and it's a group that I say I must write it cost my life. And I wrote it. It's racism. It's, when you read it, you see Russia regretting it, why we oppress and how it comes automatically. We don't feel it's oppression. Because the victim knows and the actor
But who does that for me?
Irene.
Okay, I'll contact Irene. Yeah?
Yeah.
Maya?
After.
Okay. We're going in now. We're going in.
Hi everyone. So we're going in for the official launch, and you'll get to hear from the authors and see you inside. I think mine is already connected via Wi-Fi. Let's use that. I already connected my laptop. Sorry guys, technical issue. No, I'm going to do
Nou, het is vandoor.
Nou ja, dan gaan ze dus morgen. Zijn ze ook net doen. En ja, toen zei ja, die had er nog nergens over nagedacht. Die zei ook prima met haar Amsterdam. Want zij zagen er ook tegen met een koffer, weet ik veel wat.
Dus dat is ook een uitdaging voor jou.
Ja,
Ik ook in Amsterdam.
ja, ik had het eigenlijk bij Oh ja. Nou, niet hoor, we zaten binnen een uur toen. Toen later, ik had er dan een tafel geweest. Toen vertelde ze dat ze toen later ging. Dan moest ik weer zo leren. Ik krijg dat geld terug. Opnieuw heb ik nog in de trein zitten toen. Ja, dus maar ik denk, oh man, wat ingewikkeld. En dat had ik eigenlijk ook een beetje met het Mauritshuis. Dus ik weer reserveren. Ik ben er niet goed in, want wij proberen nooit in een parkeergarage. Dus
Ja, die vrouw vind ik het apart. Zeg maar dan natuurlijk niet met de auto.
dat is morgen, hè? Morgenochtend. Dus wij zijn er. Ja, ja, dat had ik wel gelijk gedacht. Dat is wel handig. Nou, als wij om 9 uur weg kunnen rijden, dan hebben we ruim de tijd. Dan zijn we er wel om 10 uur. We kunnen zelfs nog later eens even kijken vanavond. En dan zorg ik wel, want ik heb geen tot 11. Dus als ik niet op de tijd ben, dan ben ik er niet. Dus ik laat dan ook iets kenteken. Ja, dus laat ik nog even tegen jou zeggen om te nemen of het zijn. Ja, dan moet je opschrijven.
Dat snap ik.
Ja, dat snap ik goed. Ja, ik zal even vanavond kijken. Dus ja. Oh, ik ga het maar mee. Dus nou, dan zat je natuurlijk al heel lang te wachten op mij.
Dat is toch niet erg? Nee, maak je maar niet goed.
Maar ik vind het heel goed.
Ik ben er niet.
Hallo. Yes, we have 14 Sorry, we're having some sound issues, and so we're trying to solve solve it by doing
Dus ik
this.
stond op de verkeerde perron.
That is
En het
not
zo
quite working.
ging eigenlijk na een paar minuten was het kortje bij mij. Anders had ik die voor 34 gehaald. En dan was het gewoon helemaal oké. Nou, dat had ik niet gezien.
Ik heb prima gezeten. Eerst dacht ik, ben ik hier überhaupt goed? Die achter ons, die vroeg me of dat hier plaats kan vinden. Dacht ik, nee, ja, ik heb ook een kaartje. Ik denk, Maria, maar beneden.
Can you see me work?
Nee, dat is wel fout, hè?
Can you hear me from there? Is it echoing a lot though? Yeah.
Wat de mensen goed zeggen, zeg maar.
Ja, ja, ja.
Zelfgemaakte A4'tjes.
Ja, dat is helemaal niet oké.
Het is een verbeterpuntje op het
Ja.
Because this is the only
Whoever is giving the speech does it from on site.
Well, guys, this is interesting. Thank you very much. I think we are good to start. And yeah, I think we're good to start. Sorry for the delay, technology issues. And this kind of always throws you off track, and then you're thinking, where was I, where were we headed, and now. Can you mute if you
What we need to do,
When they're not talking from there, we have it muted.
we need to mute, yeah, either you come, like you were saying, to come and use the,
Okay, so
but-
we mute here.
but we cannot, otherwise we won't be able to, I don't know which way to do it.
Okay.
Or allow the speakers to speak from the corridor with the laptop, or to try and mute yours so that we don't hear the feedback, and then all the sound then comes from my computer.
Okay. I don't know how to mute this. How do you mute us? Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have we have some authors who are from all over who cannot be here. So we had planned so that they can join in on Zoom and they can speak and talk a little bit about what they do. So because of the interference, I think we're going to do that first so that then we can switch off the Zoom aspect of it and then we can continue here. So then unfortunately they will not continue with us. So first I will introduce myself. My name is Dr. Molly Mugisha, and this is not my speech. This is just me introducing. And from the African Culture Promotion Center. And between me and Odilia from the International School and International Africa School, we thought it's a good idea to organize something like this where we can bring authors together. And we did this now because first it's my birthday, second it's the International Book and Copyright Day, mainly because it's the International Book and Copyright Day. And we're doing it because it's almost very hard to get African books, and we have now a big community of Africans growing up everywhere in Europe and outside Africa basically. And so we're trying to find a way to make writers who are writing for this community to be together. But to, first of all, make a good start, I would like to introduce, I don't know if Mr. Vamba can hear. I see he's,
No, because
because we are muted.
yeah,
Okay.
so maybe
So-
just use a chat box.
Yes, Mr. Vamba Sheriff is one of the renowned authors in Holland. He writes in Dutch. He writes African books, and he writes about, his story, his life, and also his experiences. And we were planning to have him in person so that he can tell us a little bit about his journey as an author, because for those of you who are authors, it's very difficult to get your work out there and to get a publisher and all those kinds of technical things. So I would like to, first of all, ask Mr. Vamba to come in and tell us about his journey, because that's really what is the confusion for a lot of authors. Where do I start? So he's going to share a bit of that. And to facilitate him to share, I'm going to get the laptop and go very far so that I can tell him that he can come in.
I'm also chatting here.
Ah, yeah. Yes.
Hello, Mr. Vamba. I hope you can hear me. It's with technical issues, and I just introduced you, but we had to be on mute. And you're welcome to please share some words with us. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much. Was that Maria or Sarah? Oh, yes. Hi. Yes. How are you? So you're giving me the go ahead, right? Yes. Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me all?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know because you need.
I'm hearing you now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes. So I think it's better if I tell you the story of my experience as a writer in the Netherlands, and perhaps then I'll try to answer some questions. I came to the Netherlands as an asylum seeker, as a refugee in 1993, and the Liberian Civil War was then going on.
This meeting is being recorded.
The Liberian Civil War I started like 2 years earlier, and I was not in Liberia when the war broke out. I was in another country. I was in the Middle East, in Kuwait. So and there was war broke out in 1990 in Kuwait. And I fled and went through Jordan, Syria, and finally ended up in the Netherlands. So I came here as to seek asylum, a refugee, and I always wanted to write. I think from day one of my presence in the Netherlands, I was writing stories. So it's every time I told people out of excitement that I was writing a book and that I hoped that book to be published in the Netherlands or elsewhere, I was met with discouragement. I was met with disbelief. And people were saying, oh, it was a waste of time. Yes, that there were no Africans publishing books in the Netherlands. So why am I wasting my time trying to write a book when this book will not be published? But there was more to my writing than just the hope and the dream of being published. Because of the war, writing had become a kind of salvation, a kind of redemption for me. It was a means of trying to have some kind of grip on reality. So writing was a means of dealing with some of the terrible traumas that I was going through, the Liberian War, the silence. I didn't know the whereabouts of my family, my mother, my grandmother, and the rest. So it was a terrible time. So I was not only writing to be published, but I was writing to save myself. And so I think it took me 5 years. It took me 3 years in the asylum procedure. And I got a house and I continued to write. I bought a second-hand computer with my brother. We paid, I think, something like 450 guildens before the euro then. And we bought that computer. And I was writing every day. And the beautiful thing about that period was this, that I didn't have anyone telling me what I was writing was not good or was good. I mean, I was writing and I had a passion for it. So I had no critic. I had no one whispering, to me, just I wrote whatever I wanted to write. And I believe that perhaps helped me, because sometimes a keen eye is good, but a keen eye that gives you a feedback that is relevant to your work. But sometimes some feedback can be so very damaging that it, dashes your hopes and dreams and even, stops them. So, yes, I didn't have not even my brother read my stories. So it was in my 5th year, was it not? I think 1993, I came to this country. And in 1998, yes, in 1998, I had written some short stories, and I had written half of my novel. When I sent these stories, they were written in English. Ladies and gentlemen, it was written in English that I sent to this Dutch publishing house, because I didn't know American publishing houses. So I felt I'm here. I'm going to send these short stories to them, collection of short stories. So, and as luck could have it, because I'm saying this and emphasizing luck, it's very important. This publisher he received the manuscript on Monday, and I think just 7 manuscripts arrived that morning. And my manuscript was one of them, the 7 manuscripts. Usually they do receive on a daily basis between 20 to 25 manuscripts. And so what struck him, he told me later, was the fact that I didn't go about praising myself. I didn't go about telling wonderful stories about how good I was as a writer. I concentrated on the stories. I told him, the letter that accompanied my manuscript, I told him that I was a law student and that these were short stories that I had written. And so he called me, instead of, replying me, he actually called me. He called home, and I was in home that day. My brother was there, who didn't know that I was sending this manuscript. So my brother told him, Vamba will be back maybe around 10 tonight. So he called me around 10. He told me that he read the short stories and he loved them very much. And so he wanted to meet me. And we are talking about 2 Liberian boys, African boys, who were refugees, and looking at our status as Africans in the West, how difficult things are. And then you're hearing someone who was looking beyond the language, because this story collection was not in Dutch at all, it was in English, and telling you he wanted to meet you. So it was a dream come true in every aspect. And my brother and I were dancing. We were playing some African music. I don't know, maybe it was Kenyan or I don't know, Nigerian. But we're dancing and so very happy. And 2 days later, I sat across to this man and I brought the manuscript of my novel. So he told me, oh, I would like to read this novel this weekend. And I will call you on Monday. So he called on Monday. He told me, look, let's concentrate on the novel. And then later we can always publish the short stories. And the novel was not finished then. So they gave me an advance, which I had never heard of, a book that was not finished, and talking about luck here also. So they gave me something like 11,000 guldens, which was huge for a student at that time to finish the novel, and I finished it in less than 6 months. So I was writing feverishly every day, yeah? Thank you, yeah. Do the clue there? That's my daughter. So, so I wrote this novel, and it was published, and it got lots of attention. I had a marathon interview of journalists. They were like from morning till evening, all the newspapers in this country. And also I went to Belgium for a series of interviews. So the people said later that the book was hyped. You know, that my presence was hyped, and perhaps it's really true. I don't know, because the attention it got was just crazy. And but that's, in a nutshell, my experience with publishing. The thing is, it is not that that Dutch publishers usually, yes, do not accept books published in English, but if you're lucky, sometimes they do. And but after my book was published in the Netherlands, with all the attention it got, it took me some time before I could break through internationally. And that had to do with many reasons. So my breakthrough began actually in France. One of my novels, it was with my third novel that I broke through internationally. So that's my experience. Maybe you might have questions, and I'm ready. So are there any questions? Let me see. So is anyone there?
Yes. If you have any questions for Mr. Vamba, can you please either unmute yourself and ask, or put it in the chat?
Yes. And it's a message here. Yes. And thank you, Josephine. And so that was. I mean, if you want me to share my experience of, international publishers, because I'm published in many languages by now. But I believe is besides the talent, and I always say that there are so many talentful people among us in the diaspora. There are some of you who are 100 times talentful than I am, and but who have never had this opportunity. So it sometimes is time and luck. It's very, very, very important. So it's not always about. At which point will you know? Nigerian is asking me as a writer that you need to break through internationally. I don't know. There is one particular point. I think it's just. What you and the publisher decides. There are, and sometimes it goes beyond even your expectation. You publish a book, and that book will be read by many people, and from then on, the publisher, because you keep the rights, and then the publisher through an agent, because many publishers in Holland, if they want to sell a book internationally, work through agents. That does not mean that you have to have an agent, no, to be published in Holland. But to be published in the US, usually you need to have an agent, or in England, you need to have an agent to make it easier for you to be published. Because usually if you send a manuscript to England, to a publishing house in England, in America, they don't read it because they don't have time. So most of the time they read manuscripts that are sent to an agent. But in the Netherlands, you can send your manuscript directly to a publisher without an agent. And so if the book is doing well, it depends on how well the book is doing. So if the book is doing well, the publisher will then decide, all right, we are going to promote this book internationally. So then they'll go to, you have these book fairs. The biggest book fair in the world is in Germany. It's in Frankfurt. So they go, it's in October. So they go to this book fair, and then people will start, buzzing, they'll start talking about your book. And then that's when, if it's really going well, I will tell you of a Nigerian guy that I know. He's been represented by a friend of mine who lives in Groningen. So if any one of you is dreaming of trying to write a fantasy or science fiction novel, write to me, approach me. I know someone who can sell, if it's a good story, who can sell that book and get good money for you. So this Nigerian guy who is being represented by my friend who lives in Groningen, he wrote a short story about these Nigerian deities and the Ifa, this cosmology and things. And so this short story was published in the US, and through the efforts of this friend of mine. And so a publishing house in America read this short story and then asked the agent to ask this guy, this Nigerian writer, to write a novel about it. And they were ready to give him, listen to this, an advance of $50,000 US. So they gave him, he's yet to write the book, right? So the book is yet to be written, and this Nigerian has already received $50,000 US. And so for some of us, some of you who have, there's a secret. If you are thinking, you want to earn good money quickly, I would say write a fantasy or science fiction novel, because most publishing houses, especially in the US now, they are really, really looking for this kind of stories. And the chances are of you getting big money for such a book is very high. Yes. Or if you have a story and you think, this guy is an agent, so you don't know anyone, so you could write me, I could get in touch with him, and you can start conversation from there, Richard is asking, in the Netherlands, can you carry your money to publish a book, or must you accept the manuscript first before signing a contract? No, you have, in the Netherlands, most publishing houses don't accept money. They actually give you money for your book to be published. You sign the contract, and then in that contract is stipulated that you get between 10 to 15% of the book, for every book that is sold, you get to 10 to 50%. That's what you should know, not more. Most successful writers don't get more than 50%. So, but there are publishing houses that self-publish. So self-publishing is that's when you give money to a publisher to publish your books. Those publishing houses are there, but they are not the major publishing houses. Major publishing houses don't ask for money; they give you money to publish your book. So this is how This is how it works here. And sometimes they are, for example, you know the Ugandan writer Jennifer Makumbe, who had written King 2, and this book was published in Kenya, and she didn't get a cent out of it in Kenya. And but people were, talking about it in Africa, saying this is a masterpiece. And then an American publisher became interested in this book, bought the right to this book, and Jennifer Makumbe has become one of the most successful African writers of this moment. So it's all possible. Sometimes you can self-publish a book, which would then, get access. But usually when you self-publish your books, you have to do a lot of work. You have to distribute it yourself. But with the internet, nowadays, but ages ago, it was very difficult after you self-publish your book to be able to sell it. But nowadays, you can set up your own something, or you have Amazon and everything, which makes that all possible. But the mainstream publishing houses still have a lot of power, even in the Netherlands. So yes, and that time, I think Odilia knows, I was one of the writers that really broke through in this country was a writer from Uganda, Moses Isagawa. So he and I, we are very good friends. He got some money and decided to return to Uganda and enjoy his money. So yes. And, so any more questions?
There are two questions from one of our participants here. And she's asking, if somebody from Kenya wants to publish a book, is it better to try the international or Dutch market?
And it depends on where this person is living. Is this person living in the Netherlands?
No, in Kenya.
Oh, in Kenya.
Yes.
The international, I will advise. But yes, it also depends on if it is possible to publish it internationally. Yes, I would say, international. We are talking about very few countries. We're talking about England. We're talking about the U.S. We're talking about France, Germany. If your book is published in 3 or 4 of these countries, then it will be taken over by the rest. Because they are the one who control half or more than half of the publishing power. Yes.
And thank you. And the second question was, are novels more popular than autobiographical novels? I'm guessing she means fiction versus...
Autobiographical novels are actually more popular than novels. And actually, this is also a secret to publishing memoirs. So memoirs are really, really doing well. Memoirs, so that's the secret. Science fiction and fantasy and memoirs. So if one of you is thinking of really breaking through internationally, instead of you starting with a novel, I would suggest, unless you're a good novelist, or your life story is not that so interesting, then I would say go write this novel. But if you have a very interesting life story, really, there are so many. For example, a friend of mine, she is of Ghanaian Armenian origin. She lives in the US. She wrote a memoir of the relationship between her Ghanaian father and her Armenian mother. The relationship did not last. It's called Aftershocks. Nadia Owusu. This book is, I don't know how many prizes this book has won. It's doing so well. It's doing so well. This guy is here to write a novel, and she has already become a millionaire. I mean, it's crazy. So, so those are the tips. Write a memoir. People they will be shocked. Oh yeah, did he really live that life? So these are the things. People are very interested in autobiographical stories nowadays. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
There was a question in the chat.
A question in the chat.
There is a question in the chat. It says, as a Nigerian, how do I break through internationally? Also, can a novel on African history sell very well in America or Europe?
Yes. A novel, Kintu, Jennifer Makumbi's book, which has sold thousands and thousands of copies, is based in the Buganda is based in pre-colonial African history. And that book is really doing well. It's really doing well. So I would say, if you have a story to tell, the best way to break through is, if you go for the best agent. If you want to break through, for example, in England or in America, you write a very good synopsis. And the first 50 pages, I would say it should contain no mistake, no grammatical mistake. It should be, double space, Times New Roman, the font. So everything should be very professional before it's being submitted. And don't be afraid of being rejected. Send to like 50 publishers. I'm just saying. And then relax and see who you want to take the bait. And or if you think it has not succeeded, you could write a short story and get it published, in an international magazine, literary magazine. So there are many ways of breaking through internationally, but in the end is to have, and sometimes even nowadays it doesn't matter whether it's a big publisher and a small publisher. If it's a good publisher, the readers will discover you, and that will lead to a breakthrough internationally. So the story has to be good. You need to have a very good story and be very patient, because usually when my book was published in the Netherlands, that's when people realized, yes, an African can publish his book here. And I was getting manuscripts from people who just write, carelessly, full of all kinds of mistakes, and then readers see that mistake, and they reject it. So, which is terrible, So I just my advice is to be very patient and not be afraid, of writing anything. Don't go about, maybe people will not like this story. So no, every story is important. Every story, it depends on how we tell it. Every life is important. Every human imagination, whatever you imagine is important being shared with the world. So, and that's the power of literature. That's the power of novels and stories. That it makes us, stories make us to see ourselves better, to look at ourselves better, to have insights in our own lives. So I will just say, every story, each of us right now, just for example, if as a thought experiment, if I ask any one of you to narrate what we just, what he experienced today, although all of us will have, aspect of today's event, we'll mention it in that book or in that story, but the way you look at it, the way you experience it is very different, and some of you, all of us will be, hilarious. Some people might find it very serious. Some people might find it very funny, So we all look at life differently. So that's what makes it so interesting, And can a science fiction novel from Africa sell in America? This is what I'm telling you, Richard. That science fiction novel is the one selling in America. This Nigerian guy wrote a science fiction novel. You know, the guy who got the 50,000 to write a book that he's yet to finish. You know, he's writing science fiction. You know, so science fiction books, if you have an idea, science fiction or fantasy, let me say that too. Just do it. People need. And for the women among us, you know, I mean, one of the secrets, actually women writers are much more successful than we, the men writer. So all this the Western publishing world want women, you know? So, I mean, if I'm a woman, I would just resign from my job and just work 6 months, nonstop, and get that book finished and then publish it and get some money and just, yes. There's someone, Agnes, from Melbourne, Australia. Hi, Agnes.
There was a question from Aya asking if you have published any books in audio format.
Yes, I have. Yes, but they're in Dutch. Yes, I have, and yes, I have, and so you have that too, you know. If, especially in Holland, especially if a book is doing well, you start with the print version, the electronic version, and then the audio version. That's the third stage of publishing, you know. Mm-hmm. And there's also a friend of mine, a Nigerian literature of African style abroad. Yes. Yes. There is a writer here. She is black. Her name is Milo Freeman. So she writes these children's books about this African girl, black girl. She is like a princess. Her name is Arabella. So, and she is really doing well internationally. As her book have sold, I don't know how many countries. Maybe in Nigeria, her books are published by Cassava Republic. You know, so her name is Milo Freeman. So yes, they do sell well. And I think Agnes might share that, you know. Agnes, have you, your books in Australia, are they selling?
Well, it's a very hard market. I'm sorry again. I thought I wouldn't manage to join. I just got busy an hour ago. But thank you again for the invitation to attend this prepared event. And thank you for inviting me. Sarah brought this to our group. So my experience, I'm a first-time children's author. I started this from a personal experience and thought I could write something about, something that affected our family. And series of books. This is the first one. I've written the English one, translated to Arabic and Swahili, which will be published soon. But the sales in Australia, because this disease, it's about sickle cell disease, it's not that common. There haven't been that much. Most of my sales, I buy print on demand, either in America or Canada. And I've got a few friends who supported me in Australia, but I'm trying to send these books in Africa and see whether they can sell more.
I want to pin it, huh?
Great. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. And, so it's to me it's about the story in the end. Interesting, and also perhaps because we should not forget that there are now some publishing houses on the continent that are really doing well. So we don't actually need to publish if yes. So Richard is asking the question, but let me explain this. So what was I saying?
Publishers on the continent. You were talking about publishers on the continent. Yeah.
No, you have many in Kenya, in Nigeria, in the French-speaking parts of Africa. There are many publishers that are publishing books. Actually, what Cassava Republic, for example, is doing is that for those very high-profile African writers in the US and England whose books are published in those countries, then Cassava Republic will buy the rights, the African rights to those books. and then publish them in Nigeria and distribute it in Africa. So these things are happening. So sometimes you don't necessarily need to be published in America. If you have to try the big publishing houses first. You have to go out for the best and the best. And if you receive rejection, that does not mean your story is not good. No. How many times have we seen, books that are masterpieces of world literature that have been rejected by all those big publishing houses, and later it's published by a small house? Harry Potter, for example, we all know that, it's published by a small publishing house. I don't know how many million this woman has earned. So it's not a rejection of your talent. Don't begin to doubt it. If you have done the work and you continuously, submit your novel, one day it's going to happen. So if it doesn't happen in the West, look to Africa. Go to Kenya or Nigeria and try to get your book published. And if it's good, people start to talk about it in Africa, and then it will spill over here in the West, and that success will come. Bushi Imeshita, there's this Nigerian writer who, when she moved with her husband to Nigeria, and this man was abusing her, even burned the manuscript of her first novel. Yes, burned it because he was jealous of a woman whom he thought was less intelligent than he was, burned her manuscript, and that was the end of the marriage. And she left and wrote that book again, and had so many rejections. She thought, oh, perhaps I don't have talent, And until a very small publishing house that had never published a book before in London decided to take a chance on her and publish her book. That was the beginning of a very, very, very bright career. So it's about, perseverance. It's about hard work. It's about never giving up, And so Rachel, Sarah was asked, is there a risk your story being stolen when you send it to some publishers? No, there are always risks, but publishers usually don't steal stories. It's people who steal stories. Sometimes friends, you tell, oh, you're in an office and you're writing this wonderful novel, and then you tell a friend, you should be very. And my agent, an American agent, told me, and it happened to me. I had this wonderful idea, and before I knew it, someone had already published, who heard it from me, publish a book based on it. So you should be careful about sharing, especially if it's just but if you are working on it, you should share it only with people whom you trust, because if you're not careful, people can steal it. Good publishers usually don't do that. No, they don't. They don't, unless there are publishers that are struggling. I don't know, but good publishers, there are people who see ideas and change characters. Actually, there is a case of a black Dutch writer, Cynthia McLeod. I know her very well. She wrote a book, published a novel, and this novel was an American woman stole the idea for this novel, changed the characters, and published this novel in the US. And so she was thinking, this American lady is thinking that no one will ever know, because, the writer is in Holland and she is in the US. Now, somebody somewhere read that book and began to see the similarities, and this book was recalled from the market, And yes, how about sending your books to print? Can they print excess for sale without your knowledge? It is possible. African writers have suffered from this many years. Writers of Gunjiwa Tiongo, Kamalai, there are many of these European publishers. Yes, they stole a lot of our books, or made money out of it, without the African writers, remained poor. Some of them die in in abject poverty, yes. But, and this is where the role of an agent is very important. An agent can, if you have an agent, or there are other means nowadays that one can maybe, try to trace whether your books have sold more than what the publisher is claiming. So I think there are means of knowing that. But an agent can be able to, to force the publisher to say, all right, we want to see the sales record, and they can be able to trace it, yes. Well, before, yes, it was happening all the time. Yes, I write as one of my great favorite writers from Mali, Yambo Ologoem, died in poverty, when in fact his books were selling well in France. So, yes.
Oh, that's very sad. Thank you very much, Mr. Vamba. And as you can see, there is a lot of interest, and there is a lot of questions. And in order to facilitate proceeding of the event, I think I would like to suggest that indeed in future, in the near future, not very far, for the authors on this platform, because we also have guests who are attending this event, I would like to suggest that for the authors that we shall arrange a catch-up, and they have a lot of questions for you, and I'm really very grateful that you came. So I will wrap it up from Mr. Vamba, but please stay with us. And don't go. We love to have you.
I need to help my daughter with something, but
I know. I'm really proud, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation, even if it came that.
Next time I'll be there for a longer time. So
yes. So we shall organize for the authors on this forum. We shall organize in the coming month, and we shall do a Zoom session. And I thank you very much. And Mr. Vamba will be there. So we will ask for his availability, and it will be according to his availability. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so to continue with the program, I would like to also, that it is in Australia is now past midnight. So we have 2 Australian authors on the platform, and we would like to give them the opportunity to quickly tell us in a few minutes to introduce themselves and tell us about what they're writing and why they're writing, and then we can continue. So I'll start with Maria. You already Agnes, you already mentioned something about yourself. So if you just say hello, and if you picture, that would be nice. So if you just say hello and tell us what you write. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much again for inviting me. So my name is Agnes, full name Agnes Nsofa. I've been in Australia for 20 years now. I'm Zambian born. So my story is really something that is a personal experience. I have a child who was born with sickle cell anemia, and for 10 years she lived with sickle cell disease, and navigating the Australian health system and just knowing about sickle cell disease was a challenge for us as a family. So after we accepted a clinical trial for her to get cured using a bone marrow transplant, I've decided to dedicate my life to advocate for sickle cell disease. I founded the only organization here in supporting people living with sickle cell disease. I'm also involved globally, but also back home. I'll be traveling on Monday to go and launch an organization in Zambia. So branching off to do other ways of advocacy, I decided to start writing. And this is the first such, because it was so difficult for our daughter to know about sickle cell disease, I decided to write a series of books for people like her to understand or know about sickle cell disease as young as, this book is from a 5-year-old to 12 or even adults. It talks about the process of finding out that the child has sickle cell disease. So it's a series where you go through from knowing then what happens through the life of a child or an adult living with sickle cell disease. So I've planned to write 12 books as a 12 series, but I think going forward, the other things that I'm doing are doing a nutrition book around sickle cell disease. We are writing a book about sickle cell disease with about a multi-author, 32 people living with sickle cell disease globally. So I've pretty much just dedicated my life telling stories about sickle cell disease. I have written a story, my life story, but everything was done, edited, about to publish. I thought my story is still being written, so I haven't published yet. I've kept it for a while. I'll publish maybe sometime this year. Career-wise, I'm from a business world, corporate world. I used to work in the tax office, worked in the bank in Australia. When my daughter was, when we had this life of in and out of hospital, I decided to go back to uni and studied nursing and became a registered nurse just to understand sickle cell disease and all, lives in and out of hospital for the past 13 years. So now I work in the health industry, but I still pretty much miss my business world, and I'll go back one day. So in summary, that's about me, and thank you for inviting me, Sarah, who brought this idea to our group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agnes, and we're really proud to have you with us. And this is Agnes's book. Oh, where is my video? Sorry. So this is Agnes's book, Sickle Cell Disease. And for me, being a medical person and having worked in Africa where sickle cell is such a big burden, I really thank you for the work you're doing, and we hope to connect some more. And from Australia again, like I said, the Australians are soon going to sleep. I'll invite Dr. Sarah Eya to tell us a little about her book and why she writes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maureen. And thank you very much, Mr. Vamba, who has left, but I really enjoyed listening to him, and the way that other authors were just rolling off his tongue, and I was just writing down the names. I'm like, oh, I have a lot of reading to do. And it's good to see everyone. Good to see you, Agnes. So Agnes and I are in a small writing group of African ladies where we share resources and encourage each other. So good to see you, Agnes. Like Molina said, my name is Sarah Eya. I am from Uganda. I went to school with Maureen. And I currently live in Sydney, in Australia. Been here, I think it will be 10 years this year. That's a long time. And I have written a small book. It's a small picture book about a little girl called Akelo. So I come from a tribe that is called Lao, and written Lango, and it's in the northern part of Uganda, but we pronounce it Lao. And Akelo is a very common name in the Luo tribes. So at least in every family, you'll find at least more than 2 people called Akelo. So it's a girl's name, and I specifically picked that name because it's a name that many people will identify with. So Maureen is showing the book, and the title is Akelo Maroti Mongo, which is what does Akelo like to do? And it's just a small picture book showing about 20 things that Akelo likes to do. She loves to go to the market with her mom, and there is a picture, and it's bilingual, written in Lao and in English. And it's also translated in 4 other languages, Ugandan languages that are spoken in Uganda. So there's one in Alur, there's one in Chinyarwanda, and then there's one in Luganda. And upcoming, I'm working on a translation in Acholi, and also in Kiswahili, and in Kumam and Japadola. So I plan to translate in as many languages as possible. And why do I write? Combination of 3 things. As far as I remember, I have always written. When I was in primary school, I used to write short articles for one of the local Uganda newspapers, and I would get paid a little money, for writing those articles. I always have a notebook with me. When I'm in meetings, I'm always writing. I have always written. So it's a combination of loving to write, I love to read, and then I love children. So I think the focus of my books is on children. I've always loved children, but I had never noticed it. And since I came to Australia, one of the things I've always done in church is teaching kids church. So I'm a Christian and I'm involved in church. And I've always taught children. I like to play with children. I like to read books. So it's a combination of loving to write, loving to read, loving children, and then also loving my local language, my indigenous language, and wanting to make my contribution to the preservation of that language and the preservation of the culture. So it's that combination of loving to write, loving to read, loving children, and then loving our indigenous languages. I think being out of Uganda has shown me how important our languages are. And it has also shown me how important it is, you know, for someone to at least be able to understand or know the basics, you know, of the language, of, you know, where they come from. So that is why I write. And what do I do in my other life? In my other life, I am an academician. So I work at a higher education institution. I am a lecturer, and then I also do part administration in addition to the teaching. Yeah, so that's it about me. Thank you very much, Maureen, for organizing this. And I look forward to more sessions like this. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah. I find it very strange calling you Dr. Sarah. I just like calling you Eya, because that's what I'd call you all my life.
Just call me Eya, that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. But thank you so much for your inspiring work. My daughter is learning from your book, and she's practicing a bit. So it's very amazing that we have that. I see that Jesse is online. Jesse, I would like to welcome Mugero Jesse from Uganda. Please tell us about your work.
Thank you, Dr. Moline and colleagues, for arranging this exciting conference. It's good to be here. My wife Pamela told me about this conference and this initiative. I'm very excited to be here to share a bit of my work. I'm an author of a book, self-published, titled Justice Unlimited, How God Works Through Flawed People to Achieve Justice. And this book has been really inspired by my work as a lawyer and the experiences I have had seeking justice for disadvantaged, and just seeing how the whole situation can sometimes appear very hopeless. It is good that there is a breath of fresh air when you can contribute uniquely through providing sometimes almost free legal aid to help people recover their dignity and their life. A lot of my work has also been influenced by my time working as a documentation officer for some of the crimes that happened during the war in northern Uganda and southwestern Uganda. And Justice Unlimited is my first non-legal book. So the audience, they don't have to be lawyers. Anyone who is interested in justice and knowing what role they can play in helping to make the society more just would benefit from reading this book. I sent a copy, and it is also available on Amazon, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Dr. Moline, and there's any more questions, but yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Dr. Moline is just assisting some members here. I believe Dr. Beatrice is next in the speaking. Thank you so much, Jesse.
Hi everyone. You can hear me loud and clear? Good.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. Thank you so much, Moline, for inviting me for this wonderful function.
Let me see.
I had the privilege of meeting with Maureen this morning because she's just my neighbor.
And Josephine.
And I was smelling the food she was cooking. And so I decided to go there and taste it before it reaches anyone else. And be rest assured, she is a true representative of what Africa is, good food. Yes, so I'm so honored to be in this forum today. My name is Dr. Beatrice Lugose. I'm actually originally from Kenya. Many people think I'm from Uganda because of the last name. Yes. But yes, perhaps I am.
So my husband's name is Dr. John Lucas, and we happened actually to live in Uganda for almost 5 years. So we know a little bit about Uganda, the kingdom. I mean, we call it home. I always miss the Luombo and the Matoke and went to Awino Market. Yes, for those that know Awino Market. I used to go there and get my Matoke there. Yes, but yeah, in a different forum now, here we are. My name is Dr. Beatrice, and I'm also an author. I do live in the Netherlands, so I live here with Morilyn. We actually just neighbors here. And we came to Netherlands about 15 years ago. My husband and I work for the United Nations, and that's what brought us here. But when we came here, one thing that struck us is the divorce rate. And that is for marriage relationships. And we have been contributing in the UN system a lot for many years, and that is to do with criminal justice. And it's just amazing how many of the criminals that we deal with, their inspiration to do evil are stemmed somehow for one reason or the other from a broken link in their growing up. And so this drew us and brought a lot of interest when it comes to love and marriage relationships. Coming from Africa, very traditional. My husband is very traditional. I'm also very traditional. I come from the Kikuyu tribe. He comes from the Luya tribe. Coming to Europe, by then, the divorce rate was about 60%. Today, as we speak, in Luxembourg, the divorce rate is about 89%. And this number is becoming big and big. So we asked ourselves, within the society, at least to stop this percentage from growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And as we speak now, I hear also in Africa, it's now about 20%. So it's cropping in a big, big way. And so we said, you know what? In our own small way, as a married couple, we could have something that we can do. So we authored our books. So our books are actually on love relationships. The first one is tuning your relationship to last a lifetime. And the second one is what she needs to blossom. And then we realized, let's have something for the men. How to become a nurturing husband. So we have authored those 3 books. They're in English at the moment, and one of them has been translated into Dutch language. And then during the pandemic, we decided, since now we cannot hold physical seminars, since we cannot meet people, why don't we go on the social media? So we decided, okay, what we could actually do, me and my husband, we just do little acts of kindness to one another. For example, he could wake up in the morning and just give me a peck. So we take a video of that and put it in TikTok and also Instagram.
This is cooked.
And there's one particular one that strikes a chord. And we did this on the eve of 2020. On the dawn of the new year 2020, we did this video and put it out there. And it was actually my husband combing my afro, this afro. It went so viral, like within a few hours, 2 million, 3 million. Oprah magazine, Viola Davis, international organizations were looking at the video. They wanted to repost it. They were asking about it. And because the message around it was about love, this African man who has been combing his wife's afro since they got married 24 years ago, then, like 25 years ago. It really went viral. And we realized this message of love is actually striking a chord in so many people's lives. So we didn't stop. So we've been doing it now, just short videos, and then we give them to our daughter and tell her just to put them out there. And within 1 year, a lot has happened. On TikTok alone, we have like 1.2 million followers, about 64 million likes. And so we realized, okay, perhaps going the social media route also really helps. So we have also online programs for those who are single, for those who are dating, and for those who are married. And so that is my story in a nutshell. So I've been married now for 25 years. We still do work with the United Nations, but we also give back to the society through our love coach. So I'm a certified love coach as well. And this year, out of public demand and out of a research that we did and listening to people's questions, which were, how do I know that they are the right one? They would come to me and they're like, Beatrice, how do I know that he's the right one for me? And if anything, where do I find them? So this year we started a business. We are calling it Love Matchmaking. Using scientific tools, work-proven tools, core values, personal traits. So we have started what we are calling confidential, personal, very private matchmaking. So that is me in a nutshell. I'm gonna put my details on the chat, and so we can get in touch. I'm really honored to be in this forum, and I think I would love to join the forum for the ladies. There are African authors. Yes, I would love to join that group because I'm so excited to take this message of love. And I'm just going to give you just a quick example of what happened last week. I went to this function and there were two young girls. And I went in and they came and hugged me. And I'm like, oh, how old are you? And they're like, I'm 13. And then I'm like, but how do you know me? They're like, oh, we watch you on TikTok. And I said, oh, you actually watch me on TikTok? Yes, we follow you. And then a few minutes after that, I met with the mom. And she said, Beatrice, what you and your husband are doing, we cannot do. Our children are hooked on TikTok and they're watching all sorts of things. And if they can meet a Dr. Beatrice there and Dr. Jones, who are actually bringing that authentic, true way of living as an African. And I think this is why even the videos really have been going viral, because this is true African way of doing things. Very simple, very authentic, palatable. And she told me, Beatrice, keep doing it. Don't stop. Don't stop. At least for the sake of our children who are really swallowed up in TikTok. And so, so it has been a very humbling journey. And so today I'm honored to present our books to you guys. And yes, thank you, Maureen, once again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beatrice. And I know the first time I met you was at a couples workshop, and just the story of you and Mr. Jones, who we missed to see, but if he comes in, please tell him to show us his very handsome face, because I'm not used to seeing you with Jones. So as we wait for Mr. Jones, we have 3 more authors, and then, because we have cake to cut, this is a celebration. So we have 3 more authors who are going to briefly tell us about their work as we wait to see Mr. Jones' face. It's a very handsome man, you will see. I would like to invite Pamela. Pamela is also one of the authors from Uganda, and Pamela is also a personal friend of mine and also a former classmate. So Pamela, please come in.
The noise that is here. Let me see. Let me get into a room.
Okay, so while you move,
can you hear me?
While you move to find a place, let's have then Josephine speak. Josephine, please come in as far as Pamela finds a place.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hi, Josephine.
My name is Josephine Olok, and I'm so glad to be here. I got this link through my sister Victoria Olok, who's based in the UK. So really honored to be able to be here. I'm based in Uganda, Kampala, Uganda, and I've written this book. I don't know if you can see it. It's a book of poems. I'm not what you say a typical writer is, because I write poems, based on an experience, based on emotion, based on something normally triggers me to write, but I'm not really a writer. But I've been writing poems for, people's birthdays. And last year was my father's, my father has been gone 30 years. So he died 30 years ago, last year in March. A poem, just reminding our family about his passing, that I feel that he's still here in our presence. So a friend of mine said, why don't you publish this set of poems? So I decided to publish the poems. I had collected about 50 by last year. So I self-published the book for the first time, and I dedicated it to his memory, which is 30 years this March. The book is available on Amazon Kindle, and is also available in bookshops in Kampala. I'm an IT consultant, IT person. I founded a software development company, and I work on boards in the banking sector and in fintech. So honestly, I don't see myself as a writer, but now that I've published, I guess you would say that I am. But it's really, really a pleasure being here, and I want to say so many thank yous to everyone, but in particular to Dr. Mollin. So grateful that, for all your support in getting in this initiative. Thank you very much, to further interactions and to learning more about what it takes to be an author, what it takes to market the books, because I'm very, very new in the game and I'm not your traditional writer. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think many people say I'm not an author because they've not been paid for writing, or they say I'm not a writer because they haven't earned money from writing. So I think I'm just going to go with what Mr. Vamba said. We all have a story, and every story is beautiful. I've read 2 of the poems from your book, really beautiful poems. It's hard to believe that you're not a professional author or a professional poet. They're very beautiful poems. So I think you are by all means a writer, in my opinion.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. And Pamela, if you're in a quiet place, please tell us about your work.
Hello, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name is Pamela Mugero. I used to be called Bai, and I got married. So took on the name Mugero recently. I wrote the book Running in Heels. The reason I wrote this book is I was just reflecting on my life. I have had a very interesting career life, short but quite interesting. I've worked for corporate companies. Corporate companies with all their politics have a lot of drama around them. So I decided that when it came to writing, there's a friend actually who told me that I'm ever telling them stories about my workplace, and they're quite interesting. All my stressful stories. So I looked at it as an opportunity to share that to the world, especially the lessons that I learned from there. And also I combined it with my own life and how God has been faithful in so many ways for me to come through. I'm hoping that maybe I'll write the second one that follows this one. My career life continues to be dramatic, full of up and down. The book was well received by the Ugandan market, which made me happy. I remember specifically Aristoc booklet asking for the book before I took it there. Bring your copies, bring your copies. They called me like twice. They were getting impatient. So I had to give them copies. But then after that, the buzz kind of subsided. So when I went back for when the books were done, because people really bought them off the shelf, they weren't so forthcoming in terms of putting in new copies. So it's really about the demand. But I'm so grateful that I've done this in my life. It's one of the things I feel is very significant in my life, that I wrote a book and my children can read it and see what their mother went through, and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. So I think writing is a blessing, and I hope I can write again. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you very much, Pamela. I'm really proud to know you. And I hope that this community we are starting of African authors coming together will continue, because now there are really no barriers. There are no barriers, there are no country barriers, and so we can come together more often and encourage each other. So thank you so much for being there. So we have two more authors who are not physically present. We have Richard. Richard, can you please tell us about your story?
Okay, can you see me here?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Yeah, thank you. My name is Richard Nikwa. I'm from Nigeria. I'm from Apodi, Nigeria. I hope you can hear me.
We hear you, but there is a feedback. There's a lot of feedback and echo in the background.
Okay. My name is Richard Nikwa. I'm from Nigeria. Can you hear me?
Can you hold your speaker?
Can you hold your speaker? Can you hold your speaker,
Microphone.
your microphone? Yes.
My name is Richard Nikwa. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? My volume is very loud.
It's a bit better, but it's like you have radio in the background, so we keep hearing a buzz. But it's better now.
Okay. All right. My name is Richard Nikwa. I'm from Benue State in Nigeria.
Just carry on. We'll try to hear.
So, it's my first fictional novel. I wrote this novel to
Can you
bridge the gap
unplug the.
Sorry, Richard.
Can you unplug the and just speak directly through the phone? Unplug the speakers, the microphone. Yeah, and just speak directly through the phone and see if that will be better.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, that's very good. Okay. So my name is Richard Nikwa. I'm from Agoli in Nigeria. Yes. So the host under my notes is my first fictional novel. I wrote this novel to bridge the gap between ethnicity and religion in my country. Because in Nigeria, we have primarily Muslims and Christians. It's like a population of 50 to 50. So Nigeria has a population of more than 300 million people, approximately. So this novel has been written to bridge that gap. There's tribalism, ethnicity, and many other issues that face our country, because the tribes are up to 500. So this novel has a central story from Benue, Nigeria, to bridge that gap that happens amongst these many tribes. So I wrote the manuscript for this novel 10 years ago. That's when I was in the university. So this novel mainly is to bridge that, to bring to bear issues facing outside. So that's basically about the book. And I'm very happy it's gaining traction, because many people, they seek for peace country. The tribe, the population, and all other issues we face. And for present, we have problems of banditry, of issues. So this novel is bringing that story to the simple Nigerian, to the average Nigerian and African. That yes, we have these issues, but yes, we can be one. So I chose that title merely to illustrate that yes, Nigeria has a nose, and the two nose roots belong to the north and the south. We are Christians, we are Muslims, but we belong centrally to Nigeria. So that is the illustration and the idea behind my book. So my 9-to-5 job is in the banking sector. I'm the profit center manager in Nigeria. I work for United Bank for Africa, UBA PLC.
Okay.
So I'm married. I have 2 beautiful daughters.
Wow, that is very beautiful to hear about. Oh yes.
It's hard to pick my book under my nose. If you can see it here.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's interesting to hear because most of the authors here have day jobs, and I'm really looking forward to a day when it will be that we can focus on writing and earn from writing and say goodbye to the day jobs because these stories are very important to tell. Thank you so much. I would like to invite Cookie. And Cookie, are you in? Yes, Cookie is in, and he was under Nigerian Eye. Cookie, good.
Greetings, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. The name is Cookie Iwoha. I'm a creative writer by passion, a dialogue facilitator, and a journalist. I have 2 non-fiction works and 2 literary works. Both of them are poetry collections. The first one was written 11 years ago, titled The Contents of Our Empty Graves. It's a poetry collection on social vices and decolonizing the young African youth. The current one that is just released this month is titled The Tragedy of Being Born Beautiful. The Tragedy of Being Born Beautiful is a poetry collection that was written to draw attention to social issues in my society and in Africa at large. As a writer, I love to bring to the front burner Africa's indigenous cultural content that is being discarded as archaic at this time in history due to the cultural clash that civilization and colonization has ushered into our societies, which Africans are at a great disadvantage because of the unwavering influence of, impacts of colonization, neo-colonization on our social system, traditional beliefs. And we Africans just watch in dismay as our cultural properties are devalued by even we ourselves. It's not all glory anyway, because African artists are still exporting artistic expressions of African content to the global community through music and movies. So I believe that the tragedy of being born beautiful will, usher a hope to wandering souls like me on its pages. It has poems on the Chibok girls that were kidnapped in 2014 in northeast of Nigeria, where over 1,000 children has been kidnapped in the past 9 years because of insecurity and terrorism hinged on religious fanaticism. It also has other works like Time, which is abstract, where I was trying to interpret the timelessness of time itself. There are works on waking Africanness, which tried to, call Africans to embody what is theirs. That we in Africa, we were here. God had found us before Christianity and Islam, and Muslim and Islam came to our places. We were not devoid of a religion or a God before those moments. It's a wonderful work that I believe the readers will find something, thought-provoking in it that can engineer them to reflect on life and its meaning holistically. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cookie, and it's nice to finally see you in person. So, and I really want to thank the authors who have joined us from afar, and hearing the variety of your stories really makes it's so beautiful. And I'm really proud that we can still be together, launch together, even when we're not together. So next up is an author who is actually here with us, and she's moved all the way from Denmark, not Norway, Denmark. I was super excited when she told me that she can be there in person. So I would like to introduce Maria, and she's gonna share her work and tell us what she's doing.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Yes, as Dr. Moline said, my name is Maria, and I am from Tanzania originally. And what I found, well, I guess I could connect it as well to my day job. I am a teacher and educator by profession, and I've always worked in international schools for the majority of the time, and I've worked in different countries. And one of the glaring deficits was always literary texts that were from my home country that were written by Tanzanians. And so it was actually during the pandemic that, and I was living here in the Netherlands at the time, teaching at an international school here. And what we decided to do as teachers was to continue to do read alouds. And at that time, I was teaching first grade, so 6-year-olds. And so one of the days I chose a book that is a favorite in my home. It's called Lala Salama, a Tanzanian lullaby, and it's written by Patricia McLaughlin. And in that book, there is a running theme of a kanga, and a kanga is a traditional fabric that we have in Tanzania. And the kids picked up on it immediately, and they started to send voice notes because we had a platform they could respond with voice notes. And they were asking, Miss Maria, what is that? And then I had worn one on purpose. And so after the read aloud, I sent out a presentation where I shared what I did with the kanga in my house, because it's definitely something that is a staple in a Tanzanian home, and we have it in our house. I have it all the time. I travel with one. I always make sure that I have one in my bag, and so that's how my writing journey sort of began. Because then I said, oh well, I have the flexibility now that I'm teaching from home once again. It was the second lockdown at this point, and so I started to jot down, and I focused on a children's book, especially early literacy, because another thing that I see lacking at the moment, there's a big push in Tanzania as well for more of a reading culture and moving away from the oral storytelling or somehow documenting our stories. And I said I would love to be part of that initiative, of that journey. And that's how I started to write. And my book, I have it in Kiswahili and in English. Mama's Magical Kanga, or Kanga ya Mama. And I went the self-publishing route because, as Mr. Vamba had mentioned, it's just, first of all, these days it's a little bit more accessible. We're able to self-publish, and to get your book to an agent or to get picked up by a major publisher can be a little task, especially when you're living abroad. For us in diaspora, and especially in countries that English is not the primary language. And so my journey kind of took me all around. There was a lot of YouTube University involved, trying to find out what can I do, which platform to use to self-publish, what are my rights as a writer to the work, and all of that. So there was a lot of research that went into that. So it wasn't something that I woke up one day and said, okay, I'm self-publishing. Nope. So I had to learn a little bit, read lots and lots of responses from others who were self-publishing. And so I decided to self-publish with Amazon, but by having my own ISBN and owning my work, because that was the downfall. Because if you publish directly with just Amazon and they issue you a free ISBN, which is always very exciting for someone who's like, yeah, I'll save a few bucks. And but you cannot publish it then outside of Amazon. Your work is owned by them. They're your publisher. So I had to find a way to get ISBNs, and so I bought a set of ISBNs, and they were cheaper actually to buy in bulk versus small numbers. And so I began with that, and then once I got it on, I started with a paperback, which is available even right now on Amazon. And then the next hurdle came where Amazon does not recognize Kiswahili yet as one of the languages that they use to publish, and I did not want a bilingual book, like a combined book. And so I had to find an independent printer to do my printing. And so I have been doing that, and then of course working independently and navigating and all the sales and all of that has been a bit tasking, but also a really great challenge and learning for me. And so, yeah, the books are available, and I managed to also get them in hardback and paperback. And again, because you're self-publishing, you don't have a big team behind you, so you're doing everything. So I am on social media. I'm mostly on Instagram because I'm a bit hesitant to join the TikToks and everything else. I can hardly manage just that one account. And so, yeah, and that's how I push my book out there. I shared with my community first, and then it started to grow from there. And luckily, I have been able to, the word has kind of been spreading by mouth, and that's how I've been getting my sales. And I did a book tour because what was important for me as well was to make sure that it goes off to Tanzania, where I want it to be. That's where I want my book to really actually be accessible to children. And so, yeah, I did a Tanzanian book tour, and I read to different kids at various schools, and they shared with me, and the response was so unbelievably welcoming, and it really just honored my dream of saying that, hey, it can be done. And I was able to speak to so many others and be embraced with other Tanzanian authors that I didn't even know were out there in diaspora, and they've just been cheering me on and encouraging. And so even this particular launch was sent to me by another Tanzanian author who said, hey, did you know this is happening? And so I'm so grateful for the community that has been introduced to me through this journey, and I hope the rest are willing to, give it a shot. It's needed, so just chase your dreams, go out there and do that.
Thank you very much, Maria. You have said something very interesting. I did not know that Amazon does not accept or publish in Kiswahili.
Through their, and this is through their print on demand, their KDP publishing. You can buy it or somebody else can do it for you to get it on, but you yourself to upload the book and sell it, you have to list the language. And if it's in Kiswahili as a primary language, it's not yet there. Although, there we are, we're still fighting, right?
Yes, I think the journey just began because Kiswahili is one of the most important languages in the world. I mean, it's to be the African language, so surely we have to push for that. So thank you very much, and I'm very glad you could be here in person. And now we shall hear from also another author who has graced us with his presence, and he's here, and he's also from living in the Netherlands. Mr. Godian, please, Mr. Ejiogu, right?
Yeah, you said it well.
Oh, I'm getting good at this. Mr. Godian Ejiogu. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Godian Ejiogu. As Moline said, I live here in the Netherlands, so I wanted to come. I just got contact with Moline through a friend. Talking about author, I never intended to write anything. It's because of one kind of experience I had on issue of peace. So I discovered that peace is possible in life, at least personal peace in life. So in 2018, when the world was celebrating 50 years of Martin Luther King Jr., who wrote American Dream, I Have a Dream. So I was called to write an article, just an article for the biggest publishing company in the Netherlands, Koch. I think one of the 10 biggest in Europe. So I wrote the article for them, for a platform they just set. They asked me, why not turn it to a book if I can do that? I said, it's okay. So I wrote it. They asked me, okay, can you write Dutch Dream, the dream for Netherlands, like Martin Luther King Jr. wrote for America? I said, well, it's okay, I can do that. And having issue of peace, so I wrote a book. It's called My Drum, that is my dream in search of a peaceful and justice society, which is, I haven't found it. And in this book, I Netherlands can be maybe the first country in the world that can have peace and justice for all. So that is how I come to write. And the second book came because of the first. So the first, they are asking me, how can you get to that peace? Then in my second book is a story of a family. And it's something that truly happened. So it's a family of marriage between an African man and a Dutch white lady. And they have children, and there is always conflict and issues of racism in that family. So the children don't understand what was going on, the tension between the father and the mother. So, later divorce took place, and the children wanted to know why the divorce went so harsh and so bad. And I just wrote this book to show that all these big conflicts we have in the society, and we have like Ukraine and Russia, all those things happen in the family, and the effect it has on children. So what we see happening in the society in a big scale, it also happens in a family in a small scale. So if we look into our family life and make peace there and live well there, our society will be better. So my books focus mostly on issue of how to achieve peace in your life and also in the family. Personally, by profession, I'm a theologian and a spiritual caregiver. In the Netherlands, I worked in the parishes before, but now I work in the society for everybody. I think that's what I'm really happy for this gathering, and I encourage Moulin to keep this up, and we need to support it very much. The last book, I published it myself because I want the content to be exactly what I want. The first one, the content was about 300,000 words, and it was reduced to 70,000 words. Actually, it's 3 books in one. So for the second one, is very special issues. So I decided to live in what I want, and yeah.
So basically, you're saying that when you publish the book with a publisher, you don't have as much control on what you put in, or they can adjust it to what they want?
Sure, that's what they do because it has to be marketable for them. They pay you money for that, and they have to be able to make sales. Yes. So they have to remove things they think is not fitting in their publishing vision.
Yes.
or their own ideology, and also things that may make the book not be sellable. So
Okay, interesting. Mr. Ejiogu, thank you so much for joining us physically, and I'm very inspired because I didn't know about you until I started searching, and then I see your work is really amazing, and I hope you will stay connected with us, and when we call you, because we might call you to come and maybe discuss some things with us, like that publishing tip that you just gave, I hope that you will be with us longer in this journey. Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Sure, I'm involved, and when I have my commitment, I have it. So, sorry, what I forgot to say, this book, The Tribunal van Diversity, all are in Dutch, but this is really African type of justice system.
Yeah, because I saw their names like Kunle and
it's
African names.
Yeah, this is what we call restorative justice.
Yes.
It's not retributive. Europe, Western world have the issue of punishment.
Yes.
When something happens. Africans, we don't have it.
Yes.
Naturally. We call the family, if you confess, you are free. And
Yes.
peace is made between the living and the dead. So that's what these children did with their parents. They called their parents into their own court, and then they discussed the whole truth that happened in the family.
Yes.
And then the children said, okay, now everybody is free. They are also free to carry the burden of the past.
Yes.
It won't weigh on the family anymore. So it's a kind of setting everybody free.
I think that is really a big African part, because in Uganda we have also been struggling with the case ongoing in the ICC. Is that the right way, or should we just the two parties sit under the mango tree like it was in the African way? So that will be an interesting book to read. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you too.
So we are still going on with the event, and we are nearly wrapping it up. 2 more authors and we can eat, because without eating then it's not complete. So I would like to invite one of the authors that I've known for a few years now, Odilia Anyachi, and she's going to tell us about her story.
Yes, my name's Odilia Anyachi. I'm also part of the organizer of this event with Dr. Molin. I'll be very brief because many people, are now sitting for a long time. I actually started writing, writing accidentally because of a need. When I started the International African School, I really wanted to teach Swahili. So, I went to Kenya and bought all types of Swahili books, thinking that, it will solve my problem here. But when I came with those books, they did not work. Why? Because those books have been written for children who are already speaking the Swahili language. And the culture is also different, so I decided, for my children here, I just have to sit and start writing a language from the scratch, knowing that they don't know anything about Swahili. So I started to write, and so that was the birth of my first book. I never imagined I would be an author, but because of a need, and then I wrote my Swahili book 1. So I did in English first because that's my main language. And then I have written it also in Dutch Swahili, French Swahili, and German Swahili, although they are not yet in print. So I first have this. And then after writing the book 1, I realized that, I have to have a follow-up class. And then I wrote the second book. And I've also translated in the 4 languages. And the culture here is for the Western world, because the main target are children who are in the diaspora in America, in England, and in Europe. So that's about my Swahili books. And then, in the African school, we teach African culture and history. And we realize that we cannot be everywhere at the same time and the idea of starting a magazine started. And I found it beautiful, to take on the name of a Swahili name called Sauti ya Africa, which means Voice of Africa. So in this magazine, actually, there is a lot about African culture and history and stories, and also Friends of Africa. We have many of our European friends who love Africa and they go there, and that is where we document some of the good work that they do. We consciously are documenting positive stories and resilience because we are just tired of negativity about Africa to be focused on. So we are focusing on the beauty, we are focusing on the glamour. If you look at the African women, they're very glamorous. So that's about it, about me as an accidental author. And I self-publish, and I think I got the writing bug. I'm also busy with my book 3, and I'm busy writing stories for children. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Odilia, and that almost wraps it up. And like I said at the beginning, that was not my speech, so now this is my speech. I'm very happy to work with Odilia and all these authors who have responded positively, but I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. I'm a doctor by training, and I was born and raised in Uganda. I live in the Netherlands now for over 15 years, and I have 2 kids. So from Uganda, we have several tribes, so many tribes. And I am married, I come from the south of Uganda, and I'm married to somebody from the north of Uganda, and our languages are very different. So when I started to raise my kids here in Holland, and they are going to school, and there are a lot of reading books that they have, but they did not have any books that were African, which looked African, where the characters looked African. And when my daughter was about 4 years old, she started to feel, I'm not beautiful, because she's looking at her hair, she's looking at her skin, and she begins to realize that she's different from the Caucasian and Asian people in her class. And because she's the minority, the tendency is to feel, I am not beautiful. So she started to struggle with identity, and that's when I thought, of course she has to struggle with identity, because when she turns on the TV, it's Disney, even cartoon characters, it's Disney, it's white, and it's predominantly non-African. And when she opens a storybook, it is from those stories, there are no black kids, there are no kids that look like her. And then while I was thinking we have to solve this, I was looking around, of course, for books that are written by African authors with African characters, and it's not very easy, books for kids. And then she's in an international school, and they have a program which is called the Mother Tongue Day. And this was the turning point for me to start to write, because for Mother Tongue Day, they're supposed to bring a book in their mother tongue. And so I went on Amazon, I searched, and I was thinking, shall I get an Acholi book because her father is Acholi? Shall I get a Runyankole book? Nothing. I could not find anything. So that's when I decided, okay, I am going to write the books myself, at least something she can take home and say, this is, in my mother tongue. So I wrote the first book, and anyway, I thought my kids need to learn Acholi. So this was my first book, which is Wafonya Acholi, Let's Learn Acholi. And it's self-published because, of course, getting published like for an Acholi book, people are thinking, who is going to want to read an Acholi book? So what I was looking for in a publisher, in an illustrator, was somebody who can draw African illustrations. So I was very clear with my publisher that I'm independently published, but I had a publishing company. It's published by Author House. I was very clear that I want all the characters there, almost all, to be generally African, and everything there had to be African. So that was my first book, and it was really the basics of learning Acholi. And so it's just some illustrations, some pictures, and some basic sentences. This was my first book. Of course, I wrote it I invested in it, I wrote it for my child, but I also wanted it to reach every Acholi child out there who would like to learn the language. And I must say the response was, like people are thinking, why do I need to learn Acholi? And most Acholis outside Holland, outside Uganda, are speaking English. So the response has been just a few people who like it, but this was for me a legacy for my children. And then I also wrote So Said Grandma, and this is also in English, but it has sayings, African sayings that are in my language. So Said Grandma, Timeless Wisdom from African Sayings. This was my second book, and this has gotten some good response because it is talking about African wisdom and the sayings, and it also has some stories. And so, but I also keep the illustrations quite African. That's always, for me, a very big thing. But what made me very proud about this book is that some schools have put it in their libraries, but I also had some kids who have read it. So it's not only for kids, it's really like for independent readers. But I had a friend whose child read it, and then they said, oh, now I know more about Africa. And this is a child from Cameroon. And when he read it and he found something about getting involved in chores, everybody doing their chores, because there's a saying about that, he went and asked his mother, said, I want my own chores. I'm 9 years old and I have no chores. So I was very proud to see that the book is actually changing lives. This was my second book. And then my third book was especially dedicated to my godchild, which I wrote with a friend, which is Let's Learn Kinyarwanda. And that is also, in a way, promotes culture about Rwanda and also the language. So that was also, this has received a bit more welcome from the community. And then this is just published yesterday. So this, I'm very happy to launch it, is about learning Runyankole. It's a Runyankole Ruchiga picture dictionary. So I write basically to transform the way a child growing up abroad sees their countries, sees Africa. And that, for me, is a very big task. And so I thought about bringing together, I have 4 books and I have never launched. So, because as an independent publisher, you don't have a team. So that's why I thought, how about if we were to launch together? Because when you think about launching, you're thinking about money, you're thinking about renting a space, you're thinking about calling people. You can do a launch and nobody shows up. So that's why I don't take it for granted, all you people who are sitting there. I do not take it for granted that you're here because you can do a launch and nobody shows up. But when I told my friends, I said, when we come together, at least if each one brings somebody from their network, we'll be able to have some confidence to launch. That's why I organized this event. And in the last year, we've been doing a lot of African activities. And this is where I put a call to anyone, to whoever is here, whoever is listening, doing these kinds of things which are not popular, like it's not like a thing to say, oh, I'm promoting African culture, I'm promoting African authors, because it's not the kind of thing that you approach somebody and say, oh, can you support this cause? And that you will have overwhelming response. So my appeal to you as we launch this and as we do this is, we need your support. For those who are here, you have already overwhelmingly supported us by being in person, and this is encouraging for us. So my appeal to you is that please support the work of African authors. And when you are called upon, please come. But most importantly as well, financial support, for example, to organize this launch and get everything ready and, rent a space is not something that is easy. So if you can support in any way, even today, like supporting towards this event, you're very welcome. Just approach one of us, and we're looking for financial support. We're looking for connections. We're looking for information. That's how you support us. So Jesse has a question. How do you know all these languages to write different local tribe books? Yes, that is a very important thing. First of all, when I wrote my first book, Acholi, I'm not Acholi, I don't speak Acholi. In fact, I am learning Acholi. But by profession, I am a child. I said I'm a medical doctor. When I came to Holland, I studied early years. So I'm an early years teacher. And I have seen writing for kids is very easy because you don't need long sentences. It's not a literature writing. So to have, for example, books and animals and something translated, all I need to do is get a really good translator who will translate the work for me. So I pay a translator to translate, for example, to Acholi. When I wrote the Kinyarwanda book, I wrote it with Dr. Ernest, who lives now in Belgium. And actually, we had a translator from Rwanda, who is a relative of his, translate the book. And then we have somebody read through it and check it. Because a children's book is not like a novel. You don't have to really know the language. What is important for a children's book is the illustrations. And the illustrators, it's easy to tell the illustrator what you want them to do. So that's how I managed to write these books, because I get translators, and for me, is to put it all together. How do I want the child opening this book to see it? If there are no other questions, I will go to the most important part of today, which is cutting cake. For the authors that are not with us, I will eat your piece, but I do ask you, for those who would like to continue following the event, please, you can now, after this, change to the YouTube following, and then we're going to get all the authors together and cut some cake. So you can stay on the line to see, and I really thank everyone. And after we cut cake, we shall go for dinner. Thank you so much. So let's go in. No, you can just show the cake part if they want to see from far, but the volume will be off. We're back. So we were in hiding outside. I would like to invite Mr. Godian and Maria, and if you can all come closer, because this is a very special moment for us. So please come closer so that we can cut this cake together. If you want them to see. Can I talk?
She has the camera printed.
Ah. So, in African tradition, you cannot really have a function without food. So food will be downstairs, but to celebrate, we also would like to say that for the first time, for some of us, we're launching for the first time, and I think for Didier as well, you've had a book tour, so that is different, but this is your launch in the Netherlands as well. So maybe you can come closer. Go closer. I want it to be cozy.
Quickly.
I think the kids went downstairs. So I would like to dedicate this cake to all the authors who participated in this project. The authors in Australia, in the US, in Nigeria, in Uganda, and in the UK, and of course from Holland, and for you also from Denmark. I would like to dedicate this to you, and in Thanksgiving for everybody who came. And I would like to thank Irene who baked the cake, and I don't know, normally we sing happy birthday. What do we sing?
Can you just cut it?
No, you come. You have to touch the knife.
Oh, okay. I will touch the knife.
There's so many different traditions, but yeah, we all need to touch the knife. Because we're all cutting this cake. And some pictures? You're the one cutting. Exactly. Molina's the one who's really holding this knife. You're the one cutting. Yeah, no, symbolic. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3. Congratulations. That's what I wanted. That's exactly what. Can Yeah.
stage it.
No, in Uganda, it's yeah. But I'm not good at it. Some people can really do it good.
Oh yeah.
If you don't
That's
do
what I
often,
did.
you
Yeah.
forget.
Yes.
Normally women do that, men doesn't.
Sure.
What do the men do?
What do the men do? Clap. Yeah.
So,
Beautiful.
do you have like
And,
professional cake cutters or something?
Irene is the one who made the cake.
Yes, Irene made the cake.
Yeah, she's the one who made the cake. So, yeah.
The color is really nice.
Done a good job, Irene.
The cake maker.
She made the cake and she's fasting.
So everybody help yourself to a piece of cake, and after this we shall go downstairs for a meal, to share a meal.
There's pilau right here.
Oh yes, there's pilau.
I forgot my.
There's pilau, there's samosa.
Okay, so lucky to be.
It's not a celebration if there's no pilau.
Yeah, that is no. If you're from West Africa, it's not a celebration if there's no
No jollof, exactly. But you know, majority East Africans here at the moment.
Yes, if there's no jollof, then you're not celebrating anything.
It's not
I hear there is fight about jollof. That
Oh.
Recording stopped. The recording has stopped.
Yeah, the big fight is which is the best jollof.
Exactly. Ghanaian or.
That one is.
This is just cream. This is
No,
just
that's just cream.
Yeah, this is just cream.
That's just
Okay,
cream.
then.
This one is
Yeah, got it.
Or like, pass it to everybody.
Okay.
Yes. This way, not this one, the other.
Thank you.
I think what I'll do,
First put on a plate.
and also I'll do that. Then I can, because I was trying to grab both legs. Oh yeah.
Maria. Where did you record?
I don't know. It was just recording. You can't find it? Did you already close everything? Because we were using the web. It might be under your. Yeah, it might be on the cloud.
I'm going to check it for Mama again.
If the father is there, if she's come, if you manage, if your father is there, you can also join us. Let them come.
I want to ask you because I have to you have to.
So go, they can come, right? I don't know.
They
I don't know, man. Maybe he involved him in a conversation. Yeah, probably.
Would you like some water?
Yes, please.
So you
Bob, you're still.
Okay, let's go sit down.
Yeah, we go sit down.
How many more people?
It's already given to everybody.
You're the real MVP.
Okay, shall we
Like I told her, like today.
Yeah, just to eat and then tomorrow go west to catch one before you to go. Yes.
So I was on the phone.
Yes, Emma, we shall. Do you think there's fire downstairs? Ah, yes, but how will I do it?
No, just a plate.
Yeah.
That would be really yes. Any more? Oh, yeah, you.
Be written down. And when I was there, they really had to see the pen. And
The kids need to come and explain. Yes, now it's because but when then I know. A fork. very true. Well, downstairs is drinks.
I'll take one back.
Yeah.
I signed it.
You didn't make it.
No, we had different The boys, don't they want cake?
You're still here?
No, go down. Would you like cake?
Yeah.
Would you like cake?
Yeah.
Would you?
My insecurities on
If you
Zoom.
like, you can see, they can do this, okay?
Can I please have some?
Alanya.
Can I have sit down here?
Yes, you can sit there and eat cake, or you can go downstairs and eat it.
I'm just gonna go downstairs.
Yeah. So let's go to eat some food. Yes, so we're going to eat some food. Okay, you can go.
Hello. When you're going to pitch that drink was, and also running up and down here. Well, I can't see that on her first day. Way away. You're down there. Hi, guys. Can you please pack both of them for me?
Don't ask, don't ask. I'll explain later.
Because you didn't go with the phone. Yeah. Go with my phone. You know where it is.
Yes, they want to do a discount.
You forgot that you have to go with the phone?
Yeah.
Then hurry to pause. Then after that you can close.
Okay, so I just have to keep it with me.
You see? Nobody's watching anymore because like there's nothing.
Okay. I could just stop it? I can just stop it?
Yeah.
Okay.
are you still recording the floor? How many likes are there?
Imani. Imani.
Great, it's so viral.
Imani, my phone from Imani. Take my phone from Imani, please.
Here's the food.
Just for your purpose.
You keep it in case they need it.
The blue thing.
Sorry.
Just
Yeah. Because I don't want to open them.
don't
and
open
then-
it.
Yeah.
I think the one you
The one they like cans.
Yeah.
Kids, they're not allowed at home.
Yeah.